I think the fact that Charles's aide actually went to the meeting and spoke to Meredith Maines, who I believe is Harry and Meghan's new PR person, very effective. I think she brokered the BBC interview he did where he talked about wanting to have a reconciliation with his father.
In 1995, Princess Diana made a decision that would change everything. Desperate to protect her 11-year-old son Harry from vicious rumors questioning his royal bloodline, she secretly ordered a DNA test that no one was supposed to know about. What she discovered in that sealed envelope wasn't just proof of Harry's paternity. It was a shocking revelation that exposed the palace's darkest secret.
With my family. There's no point in continuing to fight anymore. Because I said, life is precious. I don't know how much longer my father has. He won't speak to me because of this security stuff.
A genetic truth so explosive that royal officials had deliberately allowed a child to suffer under false accusations rather than reveal it. This is the story of Diana's secret DNA test and the devastating discovery that the palace tried to bury forever. The rumors weren't new, but they had gained momentum throughout the mid-1990s as Diana's marriage to Charles publicly unraveled. What made these particular whispers especially painful was how they seemed to follow a pattern, appearing in multiple publications within short periods, almost as if coordinated. For Diana, this wasn't just gossip about her personal life anymore. It was an attack on her 11-year-old son. The speculation centered primarily on Harry's distinctive red hair and his physical differences from his older brother William. While William had inherited Diana's blonde coloring and facial features, Harry stood out with his copper-colored hair, different bone structure, and more outgoing personality. These differences, which had once been mentioned affectionately by the press, were now being used to fuel questions about his legitimacy. James Hewitt had entered Diana's life as a riding instructor in 1986, 2 years after Harry's birth. Their relationship, which Diana would later describe in her famous 1995 BBC Panorama interview, lasted approximately 5 years. When she spoke to Martin Bashir, Diana admitted to the affair with characteristic honesty, saying she had adored Hewitt and was in love with him, though she felt let down when details of their relationship became public through a tell-all book. The timeline of events should have put the paternity rumors to rest immediately. Prince Harry was born on September 15, 1984, which means he was conceived around Christmas 1983. Multiple sources, including Diana's protection officer Ken Worf, have confirmed that Diana did not meet James Hewitt until the summer of 1986. This 2-year gap makes any biological connection impossible, yet the rumors persisted with remarkable staying power. What made the situation particularly difficult for Diana was the apparent orchestration behind these stories. Rather than random gossip, the timing and coordination of articles across different publications suggested something more deliberate. It seemed as though certain influential figures might benefit from keeping these questions alive in the public consciousness. For a mother trying to protect her children during an already traumatic period, this presented an impossible situation. Diana was dealing with the very public breakdown of her marriage, intense media scrutiny of every aspect of her life, and now direct attacks on her son's legitimacy. The implications went far beyond personal embarrassment. In a monarchy where bloodline determines succession, questions about Harry's paternity could theoretically affect his position in the line of succession and his entire future within the royal family. The red hair that sparked so much speculation actually had a perfectly reasonable explanation within Diana's own family history. The Spencer family, Diana's birth family, carried the gene for red hair prominently. Diana's brother Charles Spencer had bright red hair in his youth, and other Spencer relatives also displayed this coloring. Royal biographer and Diana's former hairdresser Richard Dalton has pointed out this family connection repeatedly, noting that red hair runs naturally through the Spencer bloodline. Despite the clear timeline in family genetics that should have ended the speculation, Diana found herself in an increasingly uncomfortable position. The rumors were affecting not just her, but Harry himself, who was old enough to read newspapers and hear playground taunts. Friends and staff members reported that Diana became visibly upset when these stories appeared, not because she had any doubt about Harry's paternity, but because of the potential damage to her son. The situation was made worse by the fact that some members of the royal establishment seemed reluctant to firmly shut down the rumors. Whether this was due to a policy of never responding to tabloid speculation or something more calculated, the lack of strong official denials allowed the stories to continue circulating and gaining credibility through repetition. By late 1995, Diana realized she was facing a choice that no mother should have to make. She could continue to ignore the rumors and hope they would eventually fade away naturally, but this approach risked allowing them to become so entrenched that they might resurface during divorce proceedings or follow Harry throughout his life. Alternatively, she could take decisive action to prove Harry's legitimacy once and for all, but this would mean acknowledging the rumors publicly and potentially drawing even more attention to them. The anonymous letters that began arriving at Kensington Palace added another layer of complexity to an already difficult situation. These unsigned messages, typed on plain paper, all carried the same basic message: get a DNA test before the palace uses Harry's questionable paternity against Diana in some way. The letters could have been from a well-meaning source trying to help her prepare for potential attacks, or they could have been part of a psychological operation designed to make her appear paranoid or desperate. Diana's closest advisors were divided on how to respond. Some argued that ordering a DNA test would be playing into her enemy's hands, making her look as though she had genuine doubts about her son's paternity. Others worried that failing to get proof would leave Harry vulnerable to future attacks that could be even more damaging than the current speculation. The pressure was intensifying from multiple directions. Divorce proceedings with Charles were becoming increasingly contentious, with significant financial and custody issues at stake. There were concerns that Harry's paternity might be raised as a legal issue that could affect settlement terms or custody arrangements. Meanwhile, the 11-year-old boy at the center of the controversy was becoming increasingly aware of the whispers and speculation surrounding his birth. What particularly frustrated Diana was the apparent double standard in how these rumors were being handled. While the press freely speculated about Harry's paternity based on his physical appearance, they seemed less interested in investigating the actual facts that would disprove their theories. The timeline was clear and easily verifiable, yet most publications seemed more interested in perpetuating an intriguing story than in establishing the truth. The stress of the situation was evident to those closest to Diana. Staff members at Kensington Palace noted her increased anxiety whenever new articles appeared, and her protective instincts regarding Harry became even more pronounced. She was already dealing with the challenges of raising two boys in the public eye during a very public divorce, and the paternity rumors added an extra layer of complexity to an already difficult situation. As autumn turned to winter in 1995, Diana found herself reading yet another tabloid headline questioning Harry's parentage. The timing felt deliberate, coming as divorce negotiations were heating up, and as she was preparing for what would become her most famous television interview. It seemed clear that someone wanted these questions to remain in the public consciousness, and Diana was beginning to understand that simply hoping the rumors would disappear might not be enough to protect her son's future. The decision she was contemplating would be unprecedented for a member of the royal family. No one had ever ordered a secret DNA test to prove a royal child's legitimacy. But as Diana watched her red-haired son playing in the gardens of Kensington Palace, laughing and carefree, despite the storm of speculation surrounding him, she began to realize that protecting Harry might require taking unprecedented action. The weight of the decision was enormous. Getting the test could provide the proof needed to shut down the rumors permanently, but it could also be seen as validating the speculation and might create its own problems. Not getting the test meant continuing to live under a cloud of suspicion that could follow Harry for the rest of his life. For a mother whose primary concern was protecting her children, it was becoming clear that some form of action might be necessary, regardless of the risks involved. By December 1995, Diana had reached a breaking point. The anonymous letters continued to arrive, each one carrying the same urgent message about protecting Harry through genetic testing. The speculation in the press showed no signs of diminishing, and divorce negotiations were becoming increasingly hostile. What finally pushed Diana over the edge was watching her 11-year-old son trying to make sense of the whispers and rumors that seemed to follow him everywhere. Harry had begun asking uncomfortable questions. Why did some newspapers say things about his father that weren't true? Why did he look so different from William? Diana realized that her son was becoming aware of the speculation surrounding his birth, and the psychological impact was already becoming visible. The confident, cheerful boy was starting to show signs of uncertainty and self-doubt that no child should have to experience. The decision to seek professional medical advice came after a particularly difficult evening when Harry asked Diana directly whether the stories in the newspapers were true. Looking into her son's worried eyes, Diana understood that she could no longer simply hope the rumors would disappear. She needed concrete evidence that could shut down the speculation permanently, not just for legal purposes during the divorce, but for Harry's emotional well-being and future security. Diana contacted Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a physician she had known and trusted for several years. Dr. Mitchell had treated the family previously and understood the unique pressures they faced. More importantly, she was known for her discretion and had experience dealing with sensitive medical situations involving high-profile patients. When Diana called to request a private meeting, Dr. Mitchell immediately understood the gravity of the situation. Their meeting took place at Dr. Mitchell's private clinic in Chelsea, far from the usual royal medical facilities that might have connections to palace officials. The location was chosen specifically to ensure complete privacy and to avoid any possibility of information leaking back to official channels. Diana arrived quietly, without her usual security detail, driving herself to maintain the utmost secrecy. During their discussion, Dr. Mitchell listened carefully as Diana explained the impossible situation she found herself in. The physician immediately grasped both the medical and emotional complexities involved. From a medical standpoint, a paternity test was straightforward, but the implications of conducting such a test on a member of the royal family were unprecedented. Dr. Mitchell understood that once such a test existed, there would always be questions about who might have access to the results and how they might be used. The doctor's first concern was ensuring Diana fully understood the potential consequences of proceeding. While a positive result confirming Charles as Harry's father would provide the evidence Diana sought, the very existence of the test could be problematic if it ever became public knowledge. Some might interpret ordering the test as evidence that Diana herself had doubts about Harry's paternity, regardless of what the results showed. Dr. Mitchell also explained the technical aspects of DNA testing as it existed in 1995. Genetic testing technology was advancing rapidly, but it was still relatively specialized and expensive. Most importantly, the testing would need to be conducted entirely outside normal medical channels to ensure confidentiality. This meant using private laboratories with no connections to the National Health Service or any facilities with royal connections. After extensive discussion about the risks and benefits, Diana made her decision. She would proceed with the test, but only under the strictest possible security measures. Dr. Mitchell agreed to help, but insisted on specific conditions to protect both Diana and Harry. The testing would be conducted through a colleague she knew personally, who operated a private genetic testing facility in Switzerland, a country known for its strict medical privacy laws. The Swiss facility offered several advantages. First, it operated completely independently from British medical institutions, making it virtually impossible for palace officials or government agencies to access the records. Second, Swiss law provided some of the strongest medical confidentiality protections in the world. Third, the facility specialized in sensitive cases and had experience handling requests from high-profile individuals who required absolute discretion. Dr. Mitchell's colleague, Dr. Klaus Werner, ran a small but highly sophisticated laboratory near Geneva that focused primarily on genetic testing for wealthy clients who valued privacy above all else. Dr. Werner had previously handled cases involving paternity disputes for prominent European families and understood the delicate nature of such investigations. His facility employed the most advanced DNA analysis techniques available at the time and maintained the highest standards of confidentiality. the process of collecting samples presented its own challenges. For the test to be legally and scientifically valid, samples would need to be obtained from both Harry and Charles without arousing suspicion. Dr. Mitchell developed a plan that would allow for sample collection during routine medical appointments that would appear completely normal to anyone observing. For Harry's sample, Dr. Mitchell arranged what appeared to be a standard health checkup. The boy was told it was a routine examination, and the sample collection was disguised as part of normal blood work that children his age might receive. Harry never knew that his DNA was being collected for paternity testing, which Dr. Mitchell felt was crucial to protecting his emotional well-being during an already difficult time. Obtaining Charles's sample required more creativity. Dr. Mitchell worked with Palace medical staff to arrange what appeared to be a routine health screening for the Prince of Wales. The additional sample needed for the paternity test was collected as part of standard blood work, with only Dr. Mitchell aware of its true purpose. The Palace medical staff conducting the examination had no knowledge that the sample would be used for anything beyond routine health monitoring. Both samples were then carefully prepared and transported to Switzerland through a secure courier service that specialized in handling sensitive medical materials. Every step of the process was designed to ensure that the chain of custody remained completely confidential and that there would be no paper trail connecting the samples to any official British medical institution. The waiting period was agonizing for Diana. Dr. Mitchell had explained that the sophisticated genetic analysis required would take approximately 2 weeks to complete. During this time, Diana found it difficult to concentrate on her normal activities, knowing that the results could fundamentally change how she approached Harry's future and her own legal situation. Throughout the waiting period, Diana had to maintain her normal schedule while dealing with continued media speculation about Harry's paternity. The irony was not lost on her that while she was waiting for scientific proof to settle the question once and for all, newspapers continued to run stories based entirely on speculation and physical appearance. The contrast between seeking factual evidence and the tabloid approach to the story only reinforced her belief that obtaining concrete proof was necessary. Dr. Mitchell provided regular updates on the testing process, though there was little to report during the analysis phase. The Swiss laboratory was conducting a comprehensive DNA comparison that would provide a definitive answer about biological relationships. Unlike the simpler tests that might be used in routine paternity cases, this analysis was designed to meet the highest possible standards of scientific accuracy. When the call finally came that the results were ready, Diana felt a mixture of relief and anxiety. She had been confident about what the test would show, but actually having scientific confirmation would be different from simply knowing the truth based on her own experience. Dr. Mitchell arranged to deliver the results in person at the same private clinic where they had first discussed the testing. The envelope containing the results was sealed and marked with security features to ensure it had not been tampered with during transport from Switzerland. Dr. Mitchell had reviewed the findings before meeting with Diana, so she was prepared to explain the technical details and help Diana understand the implications of what the test had revealed. As Diana sat in the quiet consultation room at Dr. Mitchell's clinic, she understood that opening the envelope would mark a turning point in her approach to protecting Harry. Whether the results confirmed what she expected or revealed something unexpected, she would finally have concrete evidence instead of having to rely on her own knowledge of the timeline and circumstances surrounding Harry's conception. The decision to proceed with secret DNA testing had been one of the most difficult of Diana's life, requiring her to balance multiple competing concerns about privacy, family relationships, and her son's future well-being. But as she prepared to learn the results, she felt confident that she had taken the right approach to protecting Harry from ongoing speculation and ensuring that the truth, whatever it might be, would be properly documented and available if needed in the future. The envelope arrived on a crisp January morning in 1996, delivered personally by Dr. Mitchell to ensure complete confidentiality. Diana sat in the familiar consultation room at the private clinic, her hands trembling slightly as she prepared to open what could be the most important document of her life. The initial relief came immediately as she read the first page. The DNA analysis confirmed with 99.9% certainty that Prince Charles was Harry's biological father. For a moment, Diana felt vindicated. She had the scientific proof that would silence the rumors once and for all. The gossip columnists, the anonymous letter writers, and anyone who had questioned Harry's legitimacy would have to face the undeniable truth of modern genetics. But as Diana continued reading through the technical analysis, her relief transformed into confusion, then shock, as she discovered something entirely unexpected. Attached to the main paternity report was a secondary analysis that had been conducted as part of the comprehensive genetic screening. The Swiss laboratory had identified genetic markers indicating that Harry carried genes for a rare hereditary condition called porphyria. This was not something Diana had requested or expected, but Dr. Werner's thoroughness had uncovered what appeared to be a significant medical finding. Dr. Mitchell carefully explained what the analysis meant. Porphyria was a group of genetic disorders affecting the production of heme, a crucial component of hemoglobin in red blood cells. The specific type indicated in Harry's genetic profile was variegate porphyria, a condition that could cause episodes of severe abdominal pain, neurological symptoms, skin sensitivity, and in some cases, behavioral changes that might appear as mental health issues. What made this discovery particularly startling was its historical significance within royal bloodlines. According to medical research from the 1960s, variegate porphyria had been identified as the likely cause of the mental health episodes suffered by King George III in the late 18th and early 19th centuries. The condition was believed to run through certain branches of European royal families, passed down through generations as a dominant genetic trait. The medical literature Dr. Werner had included with the report painted a complex picture. Individuals with the genetic markers for variegated porphyria didn't necessarily develop symptoms, but when they did, the condition could dramatically affect their physical appearance and behavior. The genetic expression could cause reddish hair coloration, pale skin that burns easily in sunlight, and facial features that might appear quite different from family members who didn't carry the same genetic variant. Diana began to understand the implications with growing alarm. This genetic condition provided a completely logical medical explanation for why Harry looked different from William. His red hair, his facial structure, even his more sensitive skin were not signs of different paternity, but rather evidence of a genetic condition inherited directly from Charles's own royal bloodline. The irony was devastating. The very features that had sparked paternity rumors were actually proof of Harry's legitimate royal heritage. But the discovery raised an even more disturbing possibility. If the palace medical establishment was aware of this genetic condition running through the royal family, they would have understood exactly why Harry's appearance differed from his brother's. This meant that palace officials had potentially allowed years of speculation about Harry's paternity to continue, despite knowing there was a perfectly innocent medical explanation for his distinctive features. Dr. Mitchell helped Diana understand the broader medical context. Porphyria had been a subject of considerable research in royal genealogy since the 1960s, when medical historians first proposed it as an explanation for King George III's mental health struggles. The condition was known to appear sporadically in royal lineages, sometimes skipping generations before manifesting in descendants. Modern genetic testing could identify the markers even when symptoms weren't present. The genetic analysis showed that Harry had inherited the porphyria markers through his father's line, not Diana's. This definitively proved his royal paternity, while simultaneously explaining his physical differences. But it also revealed something potentially more damaging. If palace medical staff had been aware of this genetic history, their silence during the paternity speculation suggested a deliberate choice to allow Harry to suffer under false accusations, rather than reveal sensitive medical information about the royal bloodline. Diana realized she was facing a dilemma that was even more complex than she had originally imagined. She now had scientific proof that would completely clear her name and establish Harry's legitimate paternity beyond any doubt. But using this evidence would also reveal that Harry carried genetic markers for a condition historically associated with mental illness in royalty. In an era when genetic discrimination was a real concern, this information could potentially affect Harry's future in ways that were difficult to predict. The more Diana considered the situation, the more she understood the possible motivations behind the palace's apparent indifference to the paternity rumors. Allowing speculation about James Hewitt being Harry's father was preferable to publicly acknowledging that the heir to the throne carried genetic markers for a condition that had once rendered a king unfit to rule. The palace had essentially chosen to sacrifice Harry's emotional well-being and Diana's reputation, rather than address uncomfortable truths about royal genetics. Within days of receiving the DNA results, Diana began to notice signs that someone within the palace establishment was aware of her investigation. Subtle changes in how certain officials interacted with her, carefully worded comments from royal medical staff, and an apparent increase in coordination between palace press officers suggested that word of the genetic testing had somehow reached official channels. The confrontation came sooner than Diana had expected. Within a week of receiving the test results, she was contacted by Sir Robert Fellows, the Queen's private secretary, and coincidentally Diana's brother-in-law. Robert requested an urgent private meeting to discuss what he termed sensitive medical matters that could affect the stability of the crown. The meeting took place in Robert's private office, away from the formal atmosphere of Buckingham Palace. Diana arrived carrying copies of the DNA results, prepared for what she anticipated would be a difficult conversation. Robert was not alone. He had brought Dr. Anthony Whitmore, the head of the royal medical household, whose presence immediately confirmed Diana's suspicions that the palace was well aware of what she had discovered. Dr. Whitmore began by acknowledging that the royal medical staff had been monitoring the genetic health of the royal family for decades. The markers for variegate porphyria had been identified in several members of the current royal family, though most individuals carrying the genes never developed severe symptoms. The condition was considered a private medical matter that the palace preferred to handle discreetly without public disclosure. What shocked Diana was Dr. Whitmore's admission that palace medical staff had been aware of the genetic explanation for Harry's appearance since his childhood. When the paternity rumors first began circulating, palace physicians had considered whether to release a statement explaining the genetic basis for his distinctive features. However, after extensive consultation, the decision had been made that protecting the medical privacy of the royal family was more important than countering tabloid speculation. The palace's position, as explained by both Robert and Dr. Whitmore, was that genetic information about the royal family constituted state secrets that could not be casually disclosed to counter rumors. They argued that revealing Harry's genetic status would set a dangerous precedent for public discussion of royal medical matters and could potentially affect public confidence in the monarchy if the historical associations with mental illness became widely known. Diana listened with growing anger as the two men essentially admitted that they had allowed her son to suffer years of speculation about his legitimacy, rather than provide a simple medical explanation that would have ended the controversy immediately. They had chosen institutional secrecy over the emotional welfare of an 11-year-old child and had been willing to let both Harry and Diana endure public humiliation to protect palace control over medical information. Robert attempted to frame the situation as a matter of competing priorities. The palace had to balance protecting Harry's long-term interests against the immediate impact of the paternity rumors. Revealing his genetic status might end one set of problems, but could create others, particularly if the information led to speculation about his mental fitness or suitability for royal duties. They believed that allowing the paternity rumors to fade naturally over time was preferable to opening discussions about genetic conditions within the royal family. Dr. Whitmore added that modern understanding of porphyria was much more nuanced than historical accounts suggested. Many individuals with the genetic markers never developed symptoms, and even those who did could manage the condition effectively with proper medical care. However, public perception of genetic conditions, particularly those with historical associations with mental illness, was often less sophisticated than medical reality. The palace officials made their position clear. They wanted Diana's assurance that the DNA test results and all associated genetic findings would remain completely confidential. In exchange, they promised that palace sources would stop feeding paternity speculation to the press and that the rumors would be allowed to die down naturally. They also offered to provide ongoing genetic counseling and medical monitoring for Harry to ensure that any potential symptoms of porphyria would be identified and treated early. Diana found herself trapped in an impossible situation. She had obtained the evidence she needed to protect Harry from paternity rumors, but using it would expose him to potentially more damaging speculation about genetic conditions and mental health. The palace was essentially asking her to choose between protecting her son from one form of harmful gossip while exposing him to another. The meeting ended without resolution, with Diana requesting time to consider the palace's proposal. As she left Robert's office, she understood that she was facing a decision that would affect not only her immediate legal situation, but also Harry's entire future within the royal family. The DNA test had given her powerful ammunition, but using it would require careful consideration of the complex consequences for everyone involved. Walking back to Kensington Palace, Diana reflected on the bitter irony of her situation. She had sought scientific truth to protect her son, only to discover that the truth was more complicated than she had imagined. The genetic findings proved Harry's royal legitimacy beyond any doubt, while simultaneously revealing why the palace had been willing to let legitimacy rumors persist. In the world of royal politics, protecting institutional secrets apparently took precedence over protecting individual family members from public humiliation. Diana spent several sleepless nights weighing her options after the confrontation with palace officials. The weight of her decision was enormous, and she understood that whatever choice she made would affect not only her immediate legal situation, but also Harry's entire future. She had the evidence to clear her name and prove Harry's legitimacy, but using it would potentially expose him to different forms of scrutiny and discrimination. As she considered the palace's proposal for confidentiality, Diana kept thinking about Harry himself. At 11 years old, he was old enough to understand that people were saying hurtful things about him in the newspapers, but he was still young enough that careful handling could protect him from the worst psychological damage. Diana realized that her decision needed to prioritize his long-term well-being over her own desire for vindication. The turning point came during a quiet evening at Kensington Palace, when Harry approached her with questions that broke her heart. He had been reading newspapers again, despite her efforts to shield him from the most damaging coverage. With the straightforward honesty that children possess, he asked her directly whether the stories about his father were true. Looking into his worried eyes, Diana understood that her son needed reassurance more than the public needed to know the complex truth about royal genetics. Diana made her decision based on what she believed would best protect Harry, both in the immediate term and throughout his life. She would keep the genetic findings confidential, as the palace requested, but she would also ensure that the DNA evidence proving Charles's paternity remained safely secured and properly documented. This approach would give her the leverage she needed during divorce negotiations, while protecting Harry from genetic discrimination. The conversation she had with Harry that evening became one of the most important moments in both their lives. Sitting together in his room at Kensington Palace, Diana chose her words carefully as she addressed his concerns. She told him that people sometimes said unkind things in newspapers that weren't true, and that some individuals were questioning whether Prince Charles was really his father. With absolute certainty in her voice, she assured Harry that Charles was indeed his biological father, and that she had medical proof to confirm this fact. Diana explained to Harry that families can have very different physical appearances, because children inherit different combinations of traits from their parents and grandparents. She told him that his red hair came from his father's side of the family, pointing out that it was a Spencer family trait that had appeared in several generations. She emphasized that his distinctive appearance wasn't evidence of anything wrong or unusual, but simply reflected the normal variation that occurs in all families. Most importantly, Diana made sure Harry understood that he was completely legitimate, completely royal, and completely loved. She told him that anyone who suggested otherwise was either misinformed or deliberately trying to cause trouble. She assured him that he would always have her protection and support, and that the truth about his parentage was not in question, regardless of what newspapers might print. The relief on Harry's face was immediate and profound. Having his mother's direct confirmation, delivered with such confidence and certainty, seemed to lift a burden he had been carrying for months. Diana realized that this conversation, more than any public statement or legal document, was what her son had needed most. Her role as his protector required providing him with security and certainty, not necessarily with public vindication. Following this conversation with Harry, Diana made contact with her legal team to develop a strategy for the divorce negotiations. She instructed her solicitor, Anthony Reeves, to prepare the DNA evidence for potential use as leverage, but only if Charles's legal team attempted to raise questions about Harry's paternity as a negotiating tactic. The evidence would remain sealed and confidential, unless the other side forced the issue. This strategic approach proved prescient when, several weeks later, divorce negotiations became particularly contentious. During one heated session, Charles's legal representatives made what appeared to be a veiled reference to questions about Harry's parentage and how such doubts might affect succession considerations. The implication was clear. They were considering using the paternity rumors as a weapon in the settlement discussions. Anthony Reeves responded immediately and decisively. He informed Charles's lawyers that Diana possessed documented DNA evidence conclusively proving Prince Charles was Harry's biological father. He made it clear that if they continued pursuing this line of argument, Diana would not only present the scientific evidence to the court, but would also make public the fact that palace officials had allowed false rumors to persist while knowing the truth. The threat was effective, and the paternity issue was never raised again in the negotiations. The divorce settlement reached in July 1996 was generous by any standard, though it came at the cost of Diana losing her title as Her Royal Highness. She received a lump sum payment of approximately £17 million, plus an annual allowance for her office expenses. More importantly for Diana, she retained joint custody of William and Harry and was allowed to keep her residence at Kensington Palace. The DNA evidence had served its purpose as leverage without ever being made public. Even after Diana's tragic death in August 1997, the sealed DNA test results remained part of the official record, carefully preserved among the legal documents related to her divorce settlement. When various inquiries into her life and death were conducted in subsequent years, investigators noted the existence of the genetic analysis. The scientific evidence confirming Harry's paternity was acknowledged, but the more sensitive findings about porphyria genetic markers were kept confidential, respecting Diana's original intent to protect Harry's medical privacy. In the years following Diana's death, several royal biographers and medical historians gained limited access to sealed records related to her life and marriage. They noted the irony that Diana had ordered a DNA test to protect Harry from false paternity rumors, only to discover evidence that the palace had allowed those rumors to persist, despite having medical knowledge that could have explained his distinctive appearance. The genetic findings provided a compelling example of how institutional priorities could sometimes conflict with individual family welfare. The story also highlighted the complexity of genetic privacy in an era when DNA testing was becoming more sophisticated and accessible. Diana's situation demonstrated how genetic information could be both powerfully protective and potentially damaging, depending on how it was used and disclosed. Her careful handling of the evidence showed an understanding that protecting her son required balancing truth with discretion. Years later, when Prince Harry reached adulthood and began speaking publicly about his experiences growing up under intense media scrutiny, he occasionally referenced the painful period when his paternity was questioned. In various interviews and his memoir, he described how damaging those rumors had been to his sense of identity and belonging. However, he also acknowledged that his mother had always provided him with the certainty and reassurance he needed during that difficult time. Harry's own statements as an adult confirm that he eventually learned the timeline that made James Hewitt's paternity impossible, understanding that his mother had not even met Hewitt until years after his birth. But he also spoke about how the persistent nature of the rumors had affected him psychologically, particularly during his teenage years when questions about identity and belonging are already challenging for any young person. The DNA test Diana ordered in 1995 represented more than just a scientific analysis. It became a symbol of a mother's determination to protect her child from harmful speculation. Her decision to obtain concrete evidence while keeping it confidential demonstrated a sophisticated understanding of how to use information strategically. She recognized that sometimes the most powerful tool is not what you reveal publicly, but what you hold in reserve as protection against future attacks. The lasting impact of Diana's actions extended beyond her own family situation. Her case illustrated how genetic testing could be used proactively to counter false accusations while still maintaining appropriate privacy boundaries. The precedent she set of obtaining scientific evidence while carefully controlling its disclosure became a model for how high-profile individuals might handle similar situations in an age of increasing genetic technology and media scrutiny. Ultimately, Diana's secret DNA test achieved exactly what she had intended. It provided irrefutable proof of Harry's legitimacy that could be used to counter any legal or media challenges, while also giving her the personal certainty she needed to reassure her son with complete confidence. The test served as both shield and sword, protecting Harry from ongoing speculation, while giving Diana the leverage needed to ensure such tactics would not be used against her family in divorce proceedings. The story of Diana's DNA test reveals the complex intersection of science, privacy, family relationships, and institutional power in the modern royal family. Her careful navigation of these competing interests demonstrated both her protective instincts as a mother and her strategic understanding of how to achieve her goals in a complicated political environment. In protecting Harry from false accusations while preserving his medical privacy, Diana showed that sometimes the most loving thing a parent can do is to seek the truth while carefully controlling how that truth is shared with the world.